Hello, students. I hope you all are well and keeping safe. So, welcome to the history class once again. So, today we are going to learn about the Age of Revolutions 1830 to 1848. But before that, let us recapitulate the lessons that we have learned so far. So, we started the chapter with the French Revolution of 1789. After that, we did Napoleonic era, where we learned about the Civil Code of 1804, which is also known as the Napoleonic Code. Remember? Napoleon seized political power in 1799, and in the year 1804 he crowned himself as the Emperor of France, and he ruled France till 1815. So he ruled France for 15 years, and in the year 1815 he was defeated in the Battle of Waterloo. So from 1815 to 1830, the European governments were driven by a spirit of conservatism. This conservative regime were autocratic. Yes, they did not tolerate criticism. They denied the freedom of speech and expression, right? And the year 1830 to 1848 is known as the Age of Revolutions. And these revolutions were led by liberal nationalists, and they were opposed to the conservative regimes. Since many revolutions took place between 1830 to 1848 in Europe, it is also called the Age of Revolutions. And who started these revolutions? The answer is liberal nationalists. Now, who are these liberal nationalists? They are political philosophers who believes in freedom, tolerance, equality, individual rights, and they were totally against the conservative regime. Liberal nationalists belong to the educated middle class, among whom were professors, school teachers, clerks, and members of the commercial middle class. So first, the revolution took place in France in July 1830, and it is also called the July Revolution. So the Bourbon kings, who had been restored to power by the conservative government in 1815. So 1815, when Treaty of Vienna was signed, right? So in the Treaty of Vienna, the Bourbon kings had been restored by the conservative government. So now what happened? After the July Revolution in 1830, the liberal nationalists overthrew the Bourbon kings, and they installed a constitutional monarchy with Louis Philippe at its head. So when the revolution took place in France in July 1830, Duke Metternich, you remember Duke Metternich? He was the Chancellor of Austria. He said, "When France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches cold." He said this because after the French Revolution of 1789, the revolutionary spirit spread all over Europe, like the ideas of liberty, equality, fraternity gained popularity among the European people. Like whatever happened in France affected every other country in Europe. So, when the revolution started in France in 1830 once again, Duke Metternich was worried that similar revolutions might start in other countries also against the conservative government. And as expected, the July Revolution in France sparked an uprising. Uprising means revolt in Brussels, which led to Belgium breaking away from the United Kingdom of the Netherlands. So earlier, Belgium was a part of United Kingdom of Netherlands. But after the revolt, Belgium separated from the United Kingdom of the Netherlands. So after France and Belgium, revolution also took place in Greece, and it is called the Greek War of Independence. Greece had been a part of the Ottoman Empire since the 15th century. The Ottoman Empire, they are Muslims, and the struggle for independence. Okay, the fight for independence in Greece started in 1821. So in this struggle for independence, the Greece got support from many other Greeks who were living in exile, and also from many West Europeans who had sympathies for the Greek culture. Many other poets and artists also supported Greece because Greece was also known as the cradle of European civilization. The English poet Lord Byron also organized funds, and later he also went to fight in the war where he died of fever in 1824. So finally, the Treaty of Constantinople of 1832 recognized Greece as an independent nation. So finally, Greece got her independence from the Ottoman Empire in 1832. Okay, students, now let's move on to our next topic, that is the romantic imagination and national feeling. First, we will try to understand what romanticism is. So, romanticism is a cultural movement which sought to develop nationalism with the help of art, poetry, stories, and music. The Romantics wanted to develop that nationalist feeling among the people. Okay, so you know what nationalism is, what nationalist feelings are. Okay, so nationalism refers to the feeling of oneness, a sense of collective identity, a sense of belonging to one nation. Okay, to show love and loyalty to one nation. So this feeling is called nationalism. So the Romantics here are trying to develop this nationalism, this nationalist feeling among the people with the help of art, poetry, stories, and music. Like in Germany, Romantics such as Johann Gottfried Herder, okay, he was a German philosopher. He also tried to develop this feeling of nationalism among the German people with the help of folk songs, folk poetry, and folk dances. Folk means traditional, okay, Purano, Uileku. And in some countries, language and music also played an important role to develop that nationalist feeling among the people. For example, Poland. In the Treaty of Vienna, 1815, a part of Poland was given to Russia. Remember? Though Poland came under the domination of Russia, but the Polish people, the people of Poland, they kept the national feelings alive through music and language. For example, Karol Karpinski, he celebrated the national struggle, okay, through his operas and music. Operas means theater, stage drama. He turned folk dances of Poland like Polonaise and Mazurka into nationalist symbols. So after the Russian domination, the people of Poland were not allowed to speak their Polish language. The Polish language was not even allowed in the schools, and the Russian language was imposed everywhere. So people of Poland were not allowed to speak their own language. They were supposed to speak in Russian language only everywhere. Though Poland tried to revolt against the Russian rule in 1831, but the uprising was suppressed. It was crushed by the Russians. But the clergies in Poland, they continued to use their Polish language for church gatherings and all religious instructions. So when the priests and bishops refused to preach in Russian language, they were punished by the Russians. And some of them were sent behind the bars, okay, they were put in the jail, and some of them were sent to Siberia. Now Siberia is the coldest place in Russia, okay, so that was also a punishment, okay, so they were left there to die in the cold. So in Poland, the use of Polish language, music, and folk dances came to be seen as a symbol of struggle against Russian domination. So with this, we have come to the end of the lesson.